welcome to Paper Daisy Journals. It's Kylie. This video is a flip through of a keepsake journal, and I am going to call this one Spring's Caress the Second, because I had a lot of leftover stuff from Spring's Caress, which was the journal preceding this one. So this is the second edition of Spring's Caress. I've called it that because the printable kit that I've got by the same name has actually influenced the colour choices in this journal. It is an A5 sized journal, and I will just open this to show you. A soft or sort of flexible cover. So this one's actually quite different to the last one. That's just a little closure that's easy to take off. And what I have done, which I'm sort of enjoying the process of at the moment, is just sewing lace onto sari silk to give it a little bit of extra prettiness, I guess, for want of a better word. So as I said, flexible cover, and I've just done some layering. I love layering inside my journal, and I tend to do some layers on the outside, but probably not as many as this time. So what I have done, I have fabric, then a beautiful piece of lace that I've wrapped all the way around, a beautiful cotton trim down the spine, and with the lace I have left it as two pockets on the back. So I've sewn a button just here, and that's sewn all the way through the cover. This is the lace underneath the trim, and I think it's just so beautiful how that part is sort of popping out onto the other side. That is the spine, so a beautiful tea-stained piece of cotton trim on the spine, and this is the front cover. I absolutely adore this bow, and it was influenced by a beautiful piece of antique, I guess, ephemera. It's a photo frame, a handmade photo frame, and I just love how the bows have been stitched onto the frame. Hopefully you can see all of that. And there's a gorgeous photo of two girls in the frame, which I will possibly eventually take out, but the photo card at the back has been sewn onto the frame, but you can see all this beautiful detail. I almost love the back as much as the front, and I would really like to see the rest of the hand stitching without the photograph. So that's where I was inspired. That's what inspired the bow on the front of this journal. So I have actually sewn the bow down, only though to the lace. So there is a big pocket on the front here, which would look really beautiful with a piece of folded avocado dyed paper, with all of your, I guess, hopes and dreams for the journal or the future, or, you know, keepsake memories sort of tucked in at the front. I do love secret tuck spots. This one's quite obvious, but only if I actually show you that it's a tuck spot. I've sewn some vintage buttons down the bottom there. I feel just to sort of add a little bit of interest and texture. And what I have done, it's easier to see inside the journal, I have hand stitched using embroidery floss all the way around the edge of the journal. This is vintage wallpaper here that I have stuck down as the lining in the journal. And rather than using a sewing machine, which tends to destroy brittle vintage wallpaper. I've hand stitched it just to maintain the integrity of the wallpaper, and I was influenced by my friend Cynthia. I will link her YouTube channel and Instagram in the description. Cynthia hand sews around the edge of hardcover books, which I will never do because but that is her signature look, and I love it. So I will sort of say that there was some inspiration there to hand sew, because I really wanted to use the wallpaper. I think the wallpaper matches in with the cover and the color scheme so perfectly, and hand stitching was a good solution. There is a lace pocket on the front and the inside of the back. I have just stuck some linen down the spine. I find if you're lining with wallpaper, it's best to have two panels, one on the front and one on the back, and a gap where the spine is so that it doesn't bow and pucker. And the linen just sort of covers up that gap. So that's why that's there. It also adds a beautiful feature and another layer. All about the layers. This tag is actually a printable from my linen and lace kit, and I will put that and the Springs Caress links in the description. And I have a beautiful piece of vintage book page here, and I will link the artist Hayley's I think she has an Etsy shop now, and her Instagram, and that's all I've put on there, as well as the tag topper. So that tag is a printable, and I've just slipped that in there. This is a page from a book about women's fashion in the 1800s, and I have a ruffle with a vintage button on there. I wanted a little bit of drama when you open the journal, but I wanted it also to be very light. This journal actually has more writing space than Springs Caress, the first edition, because there was no writing space in that one. So there is some writing space in this one. I have just sewn on a little piece of embroidered crocheted tablecloth onto a tab, and I've used vintage book page throughout. This is an original French legal document with a little cluster just sewn on at the bottom there. And this is a page from the Springs Caress printable, which I've just turned into a tuck spot. And I've got the linen, the ledger and lace, sorry, I've probably said that wrong before, the ledger and lace printable double-sided. That is a piece of ephemera from the Springs Caress kit, and I've just sewn some trim along there, some vintage trim, which is the perfect colour. This is also some vintage ribbon in a beautiful muted sort of pastel mint green with a charm hanging off, and I just love those beads. They have little roses. They're glass beads with little roses on them. This is a tuck spot made from part of a vintage handkerchief, and I've just, any snippets I tend to include in the journal. I don't actually have a lot of snippets left over usually. So that's music page, another vintage book page, and that again is a piece of crocheted tablecloth on some velvet. Another page from the kit, that beautiful postcard, and this is a tuck spot here. On this page I've actually used an idea from my friend Emily from Blue Linen Cottage. She uses beautiful trim like this and sews it just in the parts that need to be sewn to turn it into a pocket. And that is a vintage wallpaper tag with some book page at the back, and I've just had, there's some velvet lace trim lace sort of stitched onto there, and this would have to be one of my favorite wallpapers. I've tucked that in and created that on a stunning vintage telegram, and the golds and pinks and greens just matched in beautifully there. This is a piece of ledger with some tulle lace as a big pocket there, big beautiful pocket. And look at that down the side there. If you are a junk journaler, we get very excited about random sticky tape marks from hundreds of years ago. A page from a Pride and Prejudice, and that's a little tuck spot there, a lace tuck spot. And I have a wax seal with a hydrangea blossom pressed into it, a piece of ledger and some writing space there, another page from the kit, and that's a tuck spot there. On this side, this lace, I have actually sewn it on as a little tuck spot, and of course there's writing space and an embellishment down the bottom, crochet piece from a tablecloth, and that's a mother of pearl bead. This is a vintage piece of ephemera, and I have literally sewn these pieces on here because they were, I guess, leftover bits, but I've turned them into a little feature. A beautiful pocket here of silk and some doily there, and a little piece of tulle lace, and that's another piece of ephemera from the kit. And I have just sewn a little cluster on the top there, and as I've said in the other video, just to soften the edges, so a metal ruler just to soften the edges there, and I just soften those edges with my finger, and then I just sort of give things a little squeeze, I guess, because I don't like things to be too flat. I just feel it gives it a little bit of movement too off the page. It's not sort of sitting dead flat on the page either. Beautiful page from the kit again, and that's a pocket, and that's a vintage piece of wallpaper with some lace over the top, and I do love to have things cascading over a pocket. Another piece of page from the Women's Fashion magazine, and I've just put some little snippet bits here on the signature strings. I do have some beads this time, just a delicate pink sort of theme to the beads. This is another pocket here of the ledger and lace kit and Spring's Caress. A piece of tulle and velvet and some of the fabric from the front cover, that's a Tilda print, and this is a tag here with some more of that tulle lace, some green lace on music paper, and that's just tea stained paper on the back. Very simple. I like simple but maybe stunning, if I can spruik about my own work. But again, a piece of sticky tape mark there, so I had to turn that into a tag. The tag is small because I had to incorporate that. It was a must to include that on the tag. Another lace pocket here, and I have a wax seal with a blossom pressed into it, and I have sewn a vintage button on the top there to add some more interest. A page with a silk ruffle, and this is another piece of ephemera from the kit that I've actually cut the edge around, and a little lace ruffle with a vintage button. And I think I got those buttons from a friend, Sarah, Crafty Paper Bits on Instagram, so I'll put Sarah's I think her shop account in the description. I love those ladies sitting on the musical notes on the postcards. Another pocket with some lace at the top, and this is some beautiful handmade paper from my friend Heather. I'll link her shop in the description as well. Some lace overlaying a butterfly I printed onto tea-stained paper. I tricked my printer into thinking it was normal copy paper because it's a bit tetchy by literally ironing the tea-stained paper. That's the length I've gone to print on tea-stained. I don't like ironing at all. But I just thought that was, again, really simple but quite pretty, and that's tea-stained paper on the back. It's actually a bit hard to write on handmade paper unless you're using ballpoint pen. It's not great for foundation, fountains, sorry, foundation. Foundation style handwriting is what we teach at school. Fountain pen, because it pulls the little fibers into the pen and kind of ruins it. I have obviously done that. And cleaning a fountain pen is annoying. So ballpoint pen on handmade paper, or back it with something if you're using it as a tag. A little cluster of laces there with a vintage button. This is another nice big tulle lace pocket. Actually a little tuck spot here as well, because I do sort of like, I don't really like sort of straight edges, I guess. So I sort of do that. And that's on a piece of ledger from the US. Some of my favorite fabric torn into a, I guess like a smaller piece, and perfect size for a nice big pocket there, but the colors just went with this journal so beautifully. And that is the other side of that vintage telegram. How stunning is that? It is spring. That actually looks most definitely like spring. I've used that image, I think, in one of my other printables, but I forget which one it is. Anyway, if I remember it, I'll put it in the description. Another simple tag. I just did a little bit of cross stitching at the top there to make it special, and there's some of those beautiful blossoms that Hayley does on the vintage paper, and tea stained on the back, and that's just tucked into a pocket from the kit. Some more of that green lace. This is sort of a double pocket, so there's a little pocket there of the lace, and there's also the bigger pocket behind. Some vintage wallpaper, original French receipt, and I just loved the typology, I think is what you call different lettering, or I'll just say lettering style so I don't sound silly. I already sound silly, can't take it back. And I've just done some cross stitching on lace at the top there, but there's still writing space on the tag. And a snippet down the side there. That's something that you could probably stick a piece of paper that you've written on over the top of. Another writing page with a ruffle, and this is another beaded charm on the side there. A piece of ephemera from the kit with some snippets sewn on, and that's just on sort of cream cardstock that I've printed that. Actually, it's probably more off-white. It's definitely not actually white, but it may not be cream coloured per se. And this is a beautiful piece of lace here made into a nice big pocket. And a piece of vintage book page and a cluster sewn on the bottom there. I like the sort of layering that's going on. And that's the other side of that book page on fashion. And this is the back page. So as you can see, there's the pocket there, some more of that beautiful wallpaper and hand stitching. And you can see the linen on this side. I like to hand tear most of my fabrics if I can. Some are actually quite hard to tear because I just love that sort of softer edge. And this is a tag with lined paper at the back, music paper, a piece of doily, some ledger, and that all-important sticky tape mark on there. So that's just slipped in there with a little button at the top. And that is Spring's Caress edition number 2. And you can you don't need to wrap this around twice. You can, I have actually not sewn the lace all the way to the end. So if you prefer a simpler closure, you can actually snip off quite a bit of the sari silk and just tie it the one time if you want, rather than wrapping it around twice. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I've got a lot of things to remember for the description below this video. I've just realized. Okay, thank you. Bye.